Good evening, I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, spotlighting the New Orleans area's arts and entertainment scene. Seated at our table tonight, Rex Reed, film and theater critic for the New York Observer, and he's in town and a star at the Tennessee Williams New Orleans Literary Festival. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
So glad to see you.
I will do anything to get to New Orleans.
Absolutely. Poppy Tooker, host of the WWNO radio program, Louisiana Eats. Hey, Miss Poppy.
Hi, Peg.
It's nice to once again see John Kemp, art columnist for Louisiana Life magazine. Hello, Mr. John.
Hi, Peg.
Good to see you, too.
Good to be here.
And, of course, Steppin Out theater critic Alan Smason, who is the editor of the Crescent City Jewish News. Good to see you. Hello. First up, though, of course, Poppy.
We're starting off with Hogs for the Cause. Now, I know everybody has been doing the breaststroke all day in New Orleans, but really and truly, tomorrow, 11:15 to 9:45 in the evening, it is the best $40 one-day admission at what they're calling the City Pork Fairgrounds. They have other options that are more than the $40. There's one that includes quick entry, open bar, and private stage front viewing. And the food is fantastic. It's all superstar teams out there. And I spent some time this week with Becker Hall, and I just have to tell you all, this is a very small 501c3 that does incredibly good work. It's, of course, for children's pediatric cancer. And these guys put on a Hogs, or they tried to. I think in Tennessee, there was a hurricane. It's very difficult to keep this thing afloat. Beg forgiveness for that joke. But all I can tell you is, I know everybody in the viewing audience has a pair of these.
Oh my goodness.
We all wear them to Jazz Fest. So just put your boots on and do the right thing and go have really a good time tomorrow at Hogs for the Cause, because you're doing the right thing by doing that. And you won't be sorry. Now, there's some place that I know is near and dear to your heart as well as mine. Cafe Min on Canal Street, just off of North Carrollton. How long has Min been around? I know since way before Hurricane Katrina. Yeah, he just moved.
Carrollton and then
it's got to be 15 years, more than that. Anyway, his food is fabulous. And he's serving lunch Monday through Friday, 11:30 till 2:30, and then dinner Monday through Saturday. It is very French Vietnamese with a decided fresh Louisiana focus. And it's incredible, the range of food. Look at that. Oh, it was unctuous. Diver jumbo scallops, seared scallops with a grilled Japanese eggplant drizzled with a sweet chili soy sauce. There was a seafood stuffed artichoke that was out of this world. There was specials that night, like lobster dumplings with fried lobster tail, and an incredible whole fried trout that was out of this world. Delicious desserts for Min's wife, just out of this world. But basically what he does there is everything from pho to French onion soup and crab and corn bisque. It's a little something for everyone. So go see Min. It's really good. Let's not forget about some of our wonderful old classics. And then, you know, my daddy lives in Diamond Head. And so whenever I go have lunch with Daddy, we're often doing something adventurous in a place I don't normally go to, like Slidell. And I had an incredible lunch last weekend in Slidell at Joe's Italian Ristorante on Oak Harbor Boulevard in Slidell. Now, Joe is a Sicilian immigrant who's just a hard-working man, and his food is fabulous. There was veal piccata, veal marsala. Look at that. Oh, I had an incredible combo plate that included lasagna, manicotti, and ziti. But what's really incredible is that he has lunch specials every day, Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. for under $9. You can get eggplant parmesan, chicken fettuccine, chicken cacciatore, side salad, and bread. So go see Joe. It is the place to eat some yummy Sicilian Italian.
Thank you, Poppy.
Thanks,
and it's so
Peg.
great to see Rex, because Rex, you have this sort of a New Orleans-y Louisiana connection, don't you? Even though you're in New York.
Absolutely. But I was born in Fort Worth, Texas, and before I was 6 years old, I moved to Louisiana. My father worked for an oil company, and he went ahead and set up all the drilling locations in the Gulf of Mexico, and made the fatal mistake one year of getting me a summer job on one of the quarter boats. Oh. One of the worst summers of my life, I might add. And you would love this, because I felt so sorry for all these poor men who came in off of the graveyard shift and had to go on the morning tower shift at 6 a.m. and they had to have breakfast, and I was the chef's assistant. And half the time the chef was not there, and so I took pity on these people and I made them all late for their work, because I was putting cinnamon in the pancake batter. I was slicing bananas. They said, "There's no time for this. We got to feed these people," you know.
But you went to LSU.
But I also lived in the first grade. I'll never forget that, because I was the only Protestant child in an all-Catholic school.
Oh my goodness! And where was this? Where city was
Well,
this?
I lived in Lutcher and Donaldsonville.
Wow.
And I got to know Louisiana cooking very early, because even though my mother became an expert later, she was not an expert at that time. Mm-hmm. And I'd never tasted a crawfish. They were things that lived in the ditches in front of our house, you know. And then I just fell in love with all of this food, you know. And being the only Protestant child in the first grade, in those days they taught catechism in school. I mean, there was no such thing as questioning the law. You know, they just did it. Everybody was Catholic except me, and I didn't know what they were talking about. I was terrified. I would go home in tears every day, because the nuns would say, this is our new student, and he wants us all to like him. And I didn't know how to say catechism, so my mother had many meetings with the priests and the nuns. And a compromise was reached eventually, so that when they said the catechism in the first grade, I would say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
But then you went out to LSU, and
LSU.
And Elizabeth Ashley was a fellow student
in the bioscience class. Liz sat right next to me. Her name was Elizabeth Ann Cole, and she sat next to me in bioscience. And the final, she came to the final with a copy of Peyton Place and started reading. I'm dating myself now, aren't I? But she started reading, and she says, "When you're finished, let me know. We'll go for coffee. I have no intention of passing this." She said, "You know, I'm going to go to New York," and I helped her do a tape of a scene from Picnic. We sent it to the neighborhood playhouse. They accepted her. She got to New York, and within a week, she was doing a Jell-O pudding and pie filling commercial.
So she knew what to do.
And then she was on the cover of Life magazine.
Wow.
In no time.
Love it.
Southerners.
Southerners.
Can you help me?
Southerners. They have moxie.
Absolutely.
You know?
Now, you're here for the Tennessee Williams
Yes.
Festival, and of course, you interviewed him many times in New Orleans and also in elsewhere.
Well, my favorite memory was following him around for Esquire magazine. I did a big profile on him, which is now in one of my books. And he allowed me to spend the weekend, and I just walked around writing everything down. He never said anything was off the record, and he was very funny. If a lazy alligator could talk, it would sound like Tennessee Williams, you know. And his greeting when I met him was, "Babe, I've been sick." I said, "Oh, I heard about this recent illness. Tell me about it." He says, "Oh, I have so many illnesses, I scarce remember the most recent one." And it proceeded from there. It was just hilarious. We went all over the quarter. We went to Brennan's, which I know you're very familiar with. We went to Brennan's, and he was washing down that Cole Porter's favorite drink, old fashioned. He was having double old fashions, which he washed down with a brandy chaser, and then a whole bottle of Dom Perignon, and of course was feeling no pain. But with Tennessee, you never knew the difference. I mean, but Tennessee. A woman came running up to him, and he says, "I love you. I just love you. You're my favorite writer next to my husband. You're my favorite writer." He was just stunned. She says, "We are here for a convention, a book signing convention." And he says, "We are here for Holy Week." She laughed, and he says, "Who is that dreadful woman?" I said, "Tennessee, that was Mrs. Irving Stone."
Oh.
He said, what? What did he write, baby? I said, well, he wrote a book about Andrew Jackson. He wrote a book about Michelangelo. He says, couldn't think of any original characters, huh? A character, yes.
Well, we're going to keep you busy.
Part of my New Orleans background.
Oh, yes, great.
I love
and
New
we're going to keep you busy this weekend because tomorrow you're interviewing Dick Cavett, talk show host Dick Cavett.
I've known Dick Cavett for 46 years.
Wow.
Longer than I've known you.
Oh, yes.
And yes, and I when I was first starting my career, Dick Cavett asked me to sign a contract to be on 13 shows in the first 13 weeks. And so I was a regular on Dick Cavett. And we go back and we have a lot of stories.
And then I'm interviewing you on Sunday. And so that I look forward to that very, very much. And then, of course, you were going to be one of the judges along with Dick Cavett at the Stanley and Stella shouting contest. So lots of good things. Now, in terms of meals, did Tennessee have some favorite dishes, New Orleans-y dishes? Or?
Well, he loved everything, you know, especially, they asked him, what is your favorite libation? And he says, anything I can lift off the bar before midnight, preferably on fire.
I was always told his favorite starter for every day was a Brandy Alexander.
Well, he liked that, too. He liked a lot of those sweet drinks, you know, that really go to your head fast. And I got him a job as the president of the Cannes Film Festival one year, and he was, every morning he would appear in the window across from where I was staying at the Majestic Hotel in a lemon yellow dressing gown that went all the way to the floor. He had no intention of seeing any of the movies. He says, these are dreadful, dreadful pictures about I'm depending on you to tell me what they're all about, because I have no intention of seeing all these movies about peasants in Yugoslavia trying to save enough money to buy a tractor.
Well, much more from Rex this weekend. Thank you so much, Rex. It's great to have you here with us. And New Orleans Magazine's quiz queen, Julia Street, has a question for us. Last time, Don Brinkman named the local candy company that makes 3 popular Easter candies and its location and the name of 2 of the candies. Okay, Elmer's, Ponchatoula, and you could have said Heavenly Hash or Gold Brick or the Pecan Egg. All right, now tonight's question. Name 2 Tennessee Williams plays that have animals in their titles. Email your answers to Steppin Out at WYES.org. There's a snickering going on here. Everybody knows. Our prize is a year subscription to Louisiana Life magazine. And tonight we have 2 dish towels with the messages Elvis Parsley and Rosemary's Baby. Of course, Rosemary's Baby. And thanks so much to our friends at WearableVegetables.com. And you can visit WYES.org for our online calendar to see our lineup of events, including the Bayou Playhouse fundraiser with Spencer Bourne. We love Spencer Bourne. Live in concert, that's this Saturday. Tomorrow at the theater at Lockport. And you can also link to our WYES YouTube channel to visit our program on our homepage. And now, next, John. Lots of show and tell, sir.
Lots of shows. The first one is, well, I'm doing 2 shows tonight. The first one is at the New Orleans Museum of Art called the Self-Taught Genius. This is a show of folk art from the American Folk Art Museum. Remember about a month ago, I talked about the show at NOMA. It was kind of a history of American art from their own collection. Well, this is kind of a sequel to this. This is sort of the evolution of self-taught art, folk art, naive art, all those names, but now the academic world has a new name for it called self-taught genius.
Clementine Hunter included
she's in there, she's in all that, you know. But it takes the self-taught art, the self-taught genius from the Revolutionary War period to modern times. But part of the evolution, the story of this is that in the early years, the Common Revolution, the outsider art, the folk art, the self-taught, especially the self-taught artists, that was a very much part of the American mainstream. They did the portraits, they did paintings of towns and cities. They were hired to do the work because we didn't have art schools in America at the time. But as time went on into the 20th century, these self-taught artists became in the outside art world, the outside the mainstream of America, where there became more people who were doing religious connotations, political comments, and you see it like in Clementine Hunter doing her own environment, the plantation in North Louisiana, and others. So it's a really good educational program. And NOMA's doing more of this now. They're doing works from their own collections, but there's always an educational basis to it. But the labels are always very scholarly and very academic, so a lot of reading involved, but it's very, very well done. In addition to this traveling show from the American Folk Art Museum, Norma's also done a side show. It's a related show from folk art from their own collection. Remember Alice Yellen, and they did this big show back in the 90s. Well, in the meantime, they've done a lot of collecting in outside of naive art from Louisiana. The second show, this is really a good one. It's called La Femme. It's at the New Orleans Arts Center. In fact, this is the first time I've done this place. It's New Orleans Arts Center on St. Claude Avenue in the Bywater. The show contains the artwork of over 120 women artists from the greater New Orleans area. And I'm going to say who curated the show. Don Marshall.
Yes.
Don Marshall curated it. So if you know Don Marshall, you know what this is all about. It's like the old Andy Hardy movies. Let's put on a show. We have a Broadway production as a result of it. Well, every time Don does a show, you have a major production and a very, very good production. The artwork ranges from everything from Melissa Smith's beautiful landscapes to the abstract. You have Jacqueline Bishop's symbolic landscapes talking about the environment. And you have Melissa Allison doing totally abstract work. So you have the full range of art in New Orleans done by New Orleans women in the area.
And this is near Gallier Street, I believe, down there. It's in Bywater.
Yeah, no, in fact, it's right on, I think it's Press Street.
Oh, okay.
Press in that area. Right in the area,
Yeah.
not too far from Franklin Avenue.
Yeah.
So the show closes at the end of this weekend, so if you're going to see it, I do suggest you see it this week. And it's all part of the Women's History Month of March.
I went to the show. There's a lot of art.
There really was.
It's
It's
really
128 pieces in there by 120
It's really
women.
impressive. Yeah. And it's so great of Don to do that. That's a lot of
Well,
work.
Don's going to be doing more work with them. I think he's going to do a biennial with them now. He's really getting involved with them, and which is really great because, that the Bywater area has the galleries, but it's been kind of hit and miss. He has some good shows, but with Don involved in the Art Center, I expect more out of that now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
And speaking of art, now it's time for our Artist Spotlight. Tonight we are featuring works included in this year's Art in the Past, a juried show with over 1,000 artists from 15 states. Excuse me, 100, not 1,000. That would take too long, right?
That's a big part.
100 from 15 states. And this is Leaves and Lace #1 by Breck Whitworth, a retired high school teacher from Gulfport whose passion is wood turning. That's beautiful. The festival takes place tomorrow and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at War Memorial Park in Pass Christian, overlooking the Gulf. Admission is free. Next, we have Nocturne, mixed media on wood by John Langford. Originally from Wales, Langford started as a drummer in the Welsh punk rock band, the Micons, and he is now an accomplished visual artist renowned for his folk paintings of American country musicians. This is Jukebox Heroes of New Orleans. That's great. A composite print mounted on wood. He has lived in Chicago for over 25 years. His exhibit, Song Paintings, opens tomorrow evening with a reception from 6 to 8 at Lemieux Gallery on Julia Street. Visit their website to see more of his work. And now, time for Alan. Busy weekend,
Yes,
kiddo.
well, with the Tennessee Williams New Orleans Literary Festival in full swing, I wanted to sort of expose a little bit of tributary theater that really comes up every year with respect to Tennessee Williams, and that's called Two for Tennessee. Harold Gervais presents 2 one-acts, and essentially they have something to do with the legacy of Tennessee Williams. These are not Tennessee Williams' works, but they are inspired by his life, his love for the South, and possibly his own personal life. The first of this is Brick by John Broder. This is an envisioning of what it might be like for Brick Polite to be in modern times. Of course, Brick Polite was the male lead in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. It's directed by Gervais, and the play stars Bob Eads Jr. and Manuel Ponce, who many of us know in his day job as a Mardi Gras float designer. So those of you who want to check this out, they also have another play on the bill. It's called Solitary. This is written by Stephanie Garrison, directed by Eileen Kosmosky. It stars Garrett Prejean, along with Mike Sparrow, and very incredible actress Leslie Bowles-Krauss, who is also in this. It's called Solitary because it has to deal with the relationship between Tennessee Williams and his sister Rose. And of course, we all know she was a victim of mental illness. The final performances will be tomorrow night, and that's going to be at the NIMS Black Box Theater, which is on the campus of NOCA. So check that out, the New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts. So the 30th anniversary of the Tennessee Williams New Orleans Literary Festival is doing quite well. And I know that the president, Janet Daly Duval, is looking at this year's festival sort of with bittersweet emotions. This is her last year, and her heart is very full. And I know that she was presented with a bouquet of red roses by you, Peggy, the other night. So I wanted to show her. And, you know, the festival's really been kicking off very well in fine fashion. At Le Petit on Wednesday, they had an interview with Mary Badham. You may remember she is the woman now who was Scout in the movie To Kill a Mockingbird, also was in This Property is Condemned. She was interviewed, of course, by none other than the Southern raconteur and author Rick Bragg. She was, at the time of her nomination, the youngest to be nominated for an Academy Award. So, again, she has also a very famous brother, John Badham, who's the director. Again, last night we got to see a little bit of what the full conversation will be. A little touch of Estelle Parsons last night at the Jackson on Decatur. She's going to be interviewed by Foster Hirsch. That's going to be on Saturday. And again, all of these events will be able to be seen by those who possess panel passes. So if you just check that out, Estelle Parsons will be on the panel. And again, something coming up on that night will be Tennessee's Got Talent tomorrow night. This is a presentation in the past which would pit various groups of actors or readers doing certain works from Tennessee Williams, and they're going to basically be judged. In the past, there was a competition. Now they're not going to really be judged. Now they're going to basically just have David Hoover and Bo Bratcher kind of bring these works out, let the talented list of players from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, nationwide, read these different portions and expose some of the playwrights' works. So that'll be, again, on Saturday night. Here's a lovely shot, by the way, of Bo, who is an award-winning director in his own right. He's going to be presenting For Whom the Southern Belle Tolls. Now, that's a comedic reading. It's being turned out by the NOLA Project, who were seen here last year along with Ricky Graham at the Tennessee Williams Festival, but they do a great job. If there's a stereotype to be played or a foible of a known character to be shown, such as Tom wanting to go to the movies, well, you're bound to find it all here, and it's done tongue-in-cheek, but certainly presented with a lot of love.
Of course, by Christopher Durang.
Yes. Yeah. And for those of you who want an alternative to Tennessee Williams, I can't imagine there are any of you out there, but let me remind you that Jen Pagan is doing her one-woman show, The Shoebox Lounge, at the theater at St. Claude. It's an original work that has been honed down from its original length of about 2 hours down to 1 hour, and shows really remarkable depth for this actress and writer, and again, I recommend it very highly. That's going to be at the theater at St. Claude on Saturday and Sunday, final 2 days. And finally, for the younger set, there's the Stephen Sondheim, James Lapine younger edition set of Into the Woods Jr. It's going to be playing this weekend and next at the Rivertown Theaters for the Performing Arts. Again, if you want to check that out, they have a lot of fun. I think the kids do a great job, but again, that'll be on until April the 10th.
Thank you so much. And now our picks. John.
Well, we have two picks. One is the landscapes by Rona Harris at the Callan Fine Art on Charter Street, known best for her figure paintings, but these landscapes are magnificent. And secondly, the teen art exhibit, The Voices of a New Era, at the Contemporary Arts Center. At 110 young high school artists in the show.
All right.
Pretty worth seeing.
Thank you. Poppy.
Okay, the 2016 NOLA Food Fest, Saturday and Sunday at the Spanish Plaza. Always fun. And L'Étoile de la Nouvelle-Orléans, Fantasy, Cuisine, and Amour at the Southern Food and Beverage Museum on Saturday night. It's an event to benefit the Alliance Française.
Okay, great. Rex.
Well, I can recommend one. I don't think it's a good year in New York, to be honest, for theater. But there is one really great revival going on right now, and that is the Roundabout Theater's revival of the marvelous musical She Loves Me by Sheldon Harnick. And it was the little shop around the corner, and then it was made into a musical at MGM called In the Good Old Summertime with Judy Garland and Van Johnson and Buster Keaton, and then it was made into there was another one.
You've Got Mail.
Yes.
Yeah, the movie.
Yes, You've Got Mail. Nora Ephron did that, and now the original musical, which starred Barbara Cook
Yes.
and Barbara Baxley and Ludwig Donat and Jack Cassidy. It was a great original, but they've recaptured everything it needs for this. And if your viewers are going to New York, put that down. It's really, really worth seeing.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay, just want to remind you, since Rex and I are both critics, there was a critic named Joseph Kerman who called the opera being presented next week by the New Orleans Opera Association. He didn't call this particular production. He called it that shabby little shocker. It's going to be Tosca. It'll be next week, and I wanted everybody to make sure they take advantage of that. There's also going to be availability for some brunch. If you want to go on Sunday, they'll have 2 opportunities for that as well.
Okay, good. And now my picks, the Friends of the Jefferson Library are going to have their big book sale. It continues tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday noon to 5 p.m. at the Pontchartrain Center in Kenner. Free admission and parking. Visit friendsofjeffersonlibrary.org to learn more. And the Louisiana State Museum will present the panel discussion Pioneers of Gay Carnival, a conversation with the legends, this Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. at the old U.S. Mint on Esplanade, and that's free too. Concert pianist Quinn Pieper performs Edvard Grieg's Concerto in A minor, Opus 16, with organist Albinus Prisgentis Sunday evening at 5 p.m. for the Trinity Artist Series, including a selection of piano duos with Pieper and Michael Harrell. That's at Trinity Episcopal Church on Jackson Avenue. Once again, free admission. And UNO History Department's longtime historian and teacher Michael Mizell Nelson is being honored. We so miss him with a public history series. This lecture series will be the first community-based learning in the humanities topic given by Professor Mills Kelly of George Mason University. The lecture will take place on Monday, April 4th at 5:30 p.m. in the Homer L. Hitt Alumni Center and Visitor Center there too on the Lakefront campus, and that also is free. And don't forget, WYES and the English-Speaking Union present To Marry an English Lord, Tales of Wealth and Marriage, Sex and Snobbery, next Thursday, April the 7th at the House of Broll. That's on St. Charles Avenue. Co-author Carol Wallace presents photographs and anecdotes, and her book inspired Julian Fellows, writer of the ever-popular Sniff Sniff We Miss It, Downton Abbey. A cocktail and a champagne reception starts at 5 p.m. with Wallace's presentation at 6 p.m. Tickets are $50 and $75 for VIP, which includes a signed copy of the book and a photo op with the author. More information at WYES.org. Just click on the events. And the company St. Bernard Community Center presents Into the Woods as well.
Oh, yes.
That's opening next Friday, April 8th through April 17th at the Nunez Community College in Chalmette. Visit the companySTB.com for tickets. Thank you all so much. And Rex, it's so great to have you here.
Hey, it's fun being
Good
here.
night.
My only question is, when do you sleep in New Orleans? So much to see.